Hello, my name is Karen Holton, and I will be one of the presenters at the upcoming Forbidden Knowledge NewsCon, which is running from May 28th until May 31st. My presentation will be on Sunday between 1 and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but I invite you to come to the whole conference. It'll be 4 fun-filled days of information, all kinds of research that's been done on all the hot topics of our time. I will be talking about the Intergalactic Resettlement Program, how I got involved, what is it, how did it get started, who runs it, and how can we get involved, and also what to expect on one of the big ships when we go to do our orientation. I know you've got all kinds of questions for me, like what do these beings look like? What do they eat? How do we interact? There's so much I want to tell you, and I'm so excited to be presenting along with 13 other experts, each one in their own field. And we'll be seeing you there.
I had an interesting experience during one of the trips to a planet. While there, we stayed in small wooden cabins, and the next day we were out walking through the woods. The trees were very tall, and the bark was very dark brown, almost black, and the foliage only grew at the very top, and the leaves were green, same as like here. I saw a small creature fly past me, and I thought it was a giant butterfly. This is strange because we were quarantined from the animals. It had thin, iridescent wings like a butterfly. Later, when we were returning from work, I heard something cry out from a treetop. I looked up, and it was the same small being, and it appeared to be in distress. So I held out my arms, and I called to it, and to my surprise, it fluttered down into my arms, and it seemed to be really relieved. I carried it in my arms back to the cabin, and it fell asleep, so I just gently laid it on a cot. It looked kind of halfway between a cat and a monkey. Most of the animals normally found on these planets are very similar to the ones on Earth, with only minor differences. This creature was out of place, and I thought it was like a lost pet. I don't know the backstory. I would love to find out, but that's how it was. We were never fearful. We felt safe while we were there. We endeavored to just collect data and not interfere with the animals. This was not about taking a vacation or sightseeing. I did this work for parts of 3 months of our Earth time. So now I'm sure you're all wondering, what is ET like? Well, this is not a homogeneous group. I'll just tell you that right off the bat. The beings are just ahead of humans in their evolutionary process. They are at our next stage of development. They look like us, but they're healthier, smarter, better adjusted emotionally, braver, and more spiritual, but not that far ahead of us. They are in every way, though, more technologically advanced. Most are taller, but some are not. These are our brothers and sisters and cousins. They look very much like the diversity we see on Earth. Intergalactically, we are all members of the same species, just different family lines or races. Like all people born on Earth, we're of the human race. One big difference is that they live much longer, and some like over 500 years. 500 years, I would say, is like just the beginning. All of them breathe oxygenated air, eat food, sleep, but all have slightly different requirements. The exception are the aquatics, which I only saw once on one mission aboard the big ship. Aquatics are not actually aquatics because the fluid environment that they live in has the same oxygen content as our air and is not water. Many gas-breathing humanoids, like humans, can actually live for short periods of time in their liquid environment because our lungs can also act as gills. They have slits instead of protruding nostrils, gill vents behind both ears, and they're very handsome or attractive. Better than ours, and they have webbed toes and lower legs for propulsion. They don't walk. Also, they have internal genitalia. There was also short beings with beards who were close to 5 feet tall, who loved to maintain physical contact with each other. are very close and intimate with each other. The females have more facial hair than the males. Some of the races are variegated in pigment, and some can cloak their appearance. Some can rearrange their pigment for private or distant communication. Similar to someone who speaks American Sign Language, they can actually rearrange their pigment. They can communicate with someone on the other side of the room. It's really cool. Skin tone variations include all tones and shades of brown, off-white, pale blues, and orange. Some beings are shorter, but most beings were taller than us with larger frames. Some have more hair and others not so much hair. Some were bald. Angelics, which is not their real name, and they are not angels. They look like perfect, beautiful. Besides bilocation, clones are used for the transfer of our consciousness when experiencers require physicality. There are 3 kinds of clones: generic, one size fits all. There's the genetic copy, or the utilitarian, and I'll speak a little bit more about that later on in the presentation. All beings which are part of this program look very much like us. They are our slightly more evolved brothers and sisters. Some are androgynous looking, and some are more obviously gendered. There's nothing to be afraid of. Earth people are more cruel and without a moral compass than our ET brothers and sisters. These are not the only beings out there, I've been told. This is just the tip of the intergalactic community. So communication, we do not hold a conversation as we think of it. These beings have the ability to run thought privately or publicly and can involve just a select few when desired. Body language can be an indicator of a topic needing sharing. We always ask the other beings if we can share common or group or private consciousness before attempting. This is like a psychic handshake, but it also serves to set up boundaries. Once we are welcomed, then we share imaginings, like running short shared videos. We all communicate on a psychic level. There is no talking. Communication is done by feeling, emoting, and imagining. Some gesturing, and some beings gesture more than others. So composites of energy / personality / racial trait are used instead of names to identify individuals. So I've been psychically known as, and this is a rough translation into English, impulsive, joyful, helper human. Adults have the ability to psychically shield their young, which includes boundaries, until mature enough to do so for themselves. So now you're probably wondering, what's their culture like? Well, their culture is love-based with emphasis on compassion, empathy, mercy, and is a feeling-based community rather than a word exchange or speaking community. There is no deception, no bullying, and no competition unless playing. They have never been brainwashed, and these are totally free beings. The culture is very peaceful with no drama. Different beings within this group are at different levels of awareness and technology. Everything is harm reduction and based on love. No one intends to harm, frighten, or dominate. Those are human ways. The economic system within the ship is resource or trade-based. Many have similar cultures to ours, but are much freer and much more respectful. There's no stress, there's no conflict. We all respect that we all have free will and free choice. Sexual behavior is just as natural as eating and sleeping. On the big ship, the environment is sex positive. There are many interracial relationships, social, romantic, sexual, and reproductive. Some things are universal: the love for a newborn baby, the desire for community and celebration, and sex. So what are the big ships like? Okay, this is an illustration that looks nothing like the ship that I saw. It might be a ship, I don't know, but it's a good illustration. I only remember seeing a big ship from the outside once. It was black and glossy or reflective, with arms that came out midway, kind of like an octopus or a galaxy, and there were docking bays all along the arms. I also was told that the arms of many ships can connect to form worlds that surround small stars. Individually, they are very, very large, miles and miles in diameter. Excuse me. I was told that there is great diversity amongst these ships. Some are very spectacular, and they can be organic, etheric, and they also can be light ships. Some ships are enormous, like a mega city here on Earth, but some are as big as the Earth and even bigger. The interior layout is like an easy to navigate labyrinth within the ship. All desirable, as we have healing chambers to maintain and improve health. Transportation within the big ship is facilitated by vertical anti-grav lifts or horizontal kind of conveyor belt-like systems. You just hop on and go for as far as you need to. A lot of beings still walk. I mean, they're not overly populated, these ships, so there's lots of room. It may have many floors, but each floor is flat. When I was on board, I saw that the whole ship was alive and intuitive, and I learned it utilizes biological nanocomponents which form according to our needs and intentions. Everything is linked into biological intelligence. It's kind of like AI, but it's biological and it's not artificial, and I have no idea how it works. So, this part is about physical presence versus non-physical. And again, this is according to memory, and some of it is not 100% even clear to me on how it works, but I'm just going to give it to you as I experienced it. So bilocation or consciousness transfer with and without use of clones. So the clones can include one size fits all, which they all look the same. You can tell different beings because they have personalities and they have mannerisms, and it adds a whole new component to the one size fits all clone bodies. There is genetic copy, which can be a direct copy of our DNA as we live here on Earth, and specialization or utilitarian. Now, specialized or utilitarian, there might be some work that needs to be done off ship. There might be some work being done in some particular nebula or star system, or even on board that requires tools. And so you can actually get a clone body to house your consciousness that has kind of built-in what we might think of as superpowers or tools, that depending on what work needs to be done. I didn't actually experience the specialized, but I did experience the genetic copy and the one size fits all. And I, by the way, have a healthy body on hold back on my home ship. And it's not mine, I don't own it, but it's where I most frequently go and the beings that I like to be with. So when we're taken, we rarely take our physical bodies with us because we are so toxic. Our bodies have been used as filters for all kinds of industrial waste like fluoride, chlorine, radiation, etc. And I could make a whole presentation just on that, but this is why detoxification right now is so important. And since our physical bodies are toxic, we travel via consciousness transfer, bilocation, or we do a swap of consciousness with another being who is physically already there. And this allows us to work off-world while we sleep. And then there's these transportation orbs or spheres, and they offer an instant transport system with and without physicality. We can also experience etheric travel, lucid dreaming, lucid consciousness, and remote viewing, and they know when we're there. I saw no evidence of direct physical pickup from Earth. So what's it like? What is life like aboard the big ships? Well, as I mentioned before, there are healing chambers to prepare the body for life on the big ships and planets. because the atmosphere on the big ships and the gravity and everything is different than what we're used to here on Earth. And the same for the planets. Every planet has its own signature and its own way of being. Each planet is unique and offers different stresses to the body. Healing chambers are also used to keep our bodies and our clone bodies in perfect health. Many of these people were born on the big ships and they lived their whole lives there, never resettling on any planets. And not every big ship has the same culture, but the intention is pretty much the same: tolerance and compassion, love and cooperation. So just for clarification, that's why I can't say these beings are from this star system or that star system, because they've been taking on new crew members and new beings and had immigration from all over, even outside of our galaxy. And then there's years of interbreeding and everything is, it's not homogenous. I wouldn't Pacific star system, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They use a resource or trade-based economy. There's no money and everything is free. Time is spent pursuing our passions. There is much trade on within ship and off with other ships. Everything we need can be 3D printed, similar to a replicator, but only for inanimate objects. Still, culture requires its symbols, and trade definitely brings enjoyment to many. And in this way, we are very similar. The ship is biologic. It is made up of many different sections or cubicles, which easily convert depending on your intention. And yes, the ship is also psychic. Each section has everything for every purpose and just folds out according to your intention. Everything is automated and the doors respond to your intention. And the restrooms are really cool. That was one of the first things I wanted to find out is, where do I go to the bathroom? Seriously, the restrooms are really cool. There's small rooms. They have a platform that comes out of the wall, and you never have to touch anything. And since we all share a similar body design, the plumbing mechanisms are very simple. Basically, after you drop your drawers, you squat slightly, and a pleated type of wide tube will extend up from the platform. And it offers you as much physical support as you want, depending on how comfortable you are and how much squattage you want to do. And when you're done, you don't have to do anything. The tube toilet sprays a fine mist, which is immediately and gently sucked back down the tube. And this mist instantly dissolves any debris, moisture, etc. that might exist back down the tube. So you just pull up your pants and you're good to go. And afterward, the pleated tube kind of sinks back into the platform, and then the whole platform just recedes right back into the wall. It's pretty cool. Wish I had one like that. By the way, these beings are healthier than us, and they don't need to go to the bathroom very often, not like us. There is no hand sanitizers or anything like that. The housekeeping system is very simple. Every room emits a fine enzymatic mist-like substance that sanitizes, removes odors, etc., and is constantly sucked or vacuumed away by a silent, gentle air conditioning or filtration system. It's completely inert and it does not hurt the body or the health in any way. And everything, including our clothes, are constantly sanitized. So all waste material from food scraps, potty squatty, the clothes we wore that day, doesn't matter. Everything goes back into a recycling system where it's broken down into smaller elements by biological critters that I will call bugs. They are alive and they thrive in that environment. The resultant fluids are fed back into the 3D printing system, which operates a little bit like a replicator. And by the way, food is never replicated. It's not like a Star Trek experience, not really. There's some small similarities, but the reality is more advanced and eco-friendly. As an example of trade, as mentioned, the waste management system is biologic, and we did trade with another ship who lost their biological waste management bug community. So we gave them some of ours to replenish their stock. Everything has a purpose, and almost everything is biological. So the ET beings, the ET beings are very social, and we get together to eat at low tables, and we're seated on the floor or while reclining. Each table has both heat and chilling technology for food preparation. Food is completely fresh because it grows everywhere and in every department. We form a relationship with the living food, and many people love to prepare food in various ways to make it beautiful, entertaining, and delicious. The baths are also greatly enjoyed. Baths serve as a relaxed community interaction, and it also serves as nutrient and healing to our bodies. We are all naked. They are not obsessed with body type. We like water, and so do other races of humanoids. And while bathing, we fall into a collective psychic meditation, which completely relaxes everyone physically and mentally. Most of us enjoy grooming, and sometimes we like to groom and touch those we feel closest to gently while bathing. Everyone is very psychologically open, relaxed, and social without words. Bath time is a familial, loving activity. I never saw any ETs smoking, and I never saw ETs that even actually looked like this. I just provided it for a little entertainment. I saw cluster and private living quarters, which have showers. Some people live alone, others with their families, both genetic and fictitious. Yeah, there's a lot of adopting that goes on. What do we do on a day-to-day basis? Okay, so we do education and training, exopolitical type boring meetings, and this is also when I give my rationales for human behaviors, adding our culture and wisdoms to the data banks, scientific research and ship maintenance. Now the ship's alive and it evolves, and so some of the ship maintenance has to do with that. There's many different kinds of jobs, from simple utilitarian to highly technical. Scientific expeditions on other worlds where we measure potential ecological footprint, etc., and we love each other. So everybody likes to work. In the right environment, everybody loves to work. So most of these beings were born on the big ships, and they live their whole lives on board, which would be like living in a megacity. Guests like myself use the big ships and the company settlement, training, etc. ET residents do research, serve as hosts and educators and tutors, scientists, engineers, and social support workers. Mental experiences for education, entertainment, and recreation, which can have a positive effect on the physical body. And an example of that would be if you used it to go mountain climbing. So before we return to Earth, our memories are wiped clean. Spontaneous memories will emerge when the time is right, although some humans have had spontaneous memory from a triggering event. One very memorable experience: as we prepared for leaving the big ship, we used a vertical transport system to head down to the docking bay. Now, the vertical transport system is very long, like a mile long, and it's basically invisible. There's just two handle grips that you hold, and depending on, you can control your speed of descent by just holding those hand grips, but you're supported. So it's not like you have to support all your body weight. You're very supported while you're descending. So I wanted to see how fast I could go. And so I put it to maximum descent, and I went whipping down this thing. I started squealing with laughter, and the woman that was waiting to come down after me, she kind of liked that idea. She jumped on head first, grasping, the side controls, and she came flying down after me super fast, and it was like playing tag in this downward transport system. And we had great fun, and we were laughing our heads off all the way down to the docking bay. And at the bottom, there's like this little poof of air, but no noticeable impact. So you see, we know how to have fun, and we're playful. And that's true for probably most humanoids. Okay, I'm just going to have a little drink of water here. I want to talk a little bit about orientation, because if you do make it up to one of the big ships, you will go through an orientation process, very similar, if not the same, as to what I'm describing here. And this is how it went down for me. So I don't remember how I got there, but I suspect it might have been by location. In my first memory, I was in a large room without much furniture, a few tables and chairs. I sensed that it was a reception area. There were other people who looked like me, but there were subtle differences, so I suspected these might be off-world beings. We all had the same vibe of cooperation, and we knew that we were there for a purpose. There were two large men at the two visible doorways who at first I thought were guards. They stood very still and they didn't talk to us or interact with us in any way. They just stood there. I noticed that there was no handles on the doors, and I knew that I was there for a reason. And I verbally asked one of them when we could get started, but he didn't say anything to me. Telepathically, I was told that I needed to wait and that it would be soon, and I said, okay. Then I went ahead and set things up to teach the group how to play floor hockey with a piece of crumpled up paper or debris to use as a puck. I don't remember what it actually was. That I can't remember. I don't know why. Probably be significant. So we had a great time laughing and kicking this piece of refuse around between two goals that we'd set up. But then our game was interrupted and the doors opened and some of the ship residents came into the room. Now, these were no scary looking people, just humanoids very close to us. These were and are people. When the doors opened, it was time to start our orientation to the resettlement project. Not that I knew that at the time. Later, one of the ETs took me aside and told me telepathically that they didn't really expect us to come together socially and play a game. They were surprised by this, and they told me that they really valued my team building skills and that they highly value this trait. We were obviously there physically or possibly via bilocation because the first thing we did was participate in a walkthrough full body scan, a complete image of everything inside us, what we look like on the outside, our frequency, our health, etc. was recorded into their database. Next, everyone was assigned to an ET buddy or a constant companion. This being keeps no secrets and has no deception, so I felt very relaxed and comfortable with her. Our buddies stay with us 24/7 until we feel completely comfortable in that environment. The buddy informs you about what you will be experiencing, how to go about things, and answer any questions that you might have. I think I might have drove mine a little bit up the wall because I had a lot of questions. She was very patient. And when we're ready, we're given alone time and privacy when we want it. Besides our buddies, we're given orientation information, which we access with tablets. And the tablets are very similar to what we use here on Earth, except these look like thin, clear resin rectangles, and they didn't have any buttons or ports on them. They were just smooth. And they project flat on the screen or as a holographic image. And all data is stored on a cloud-like system, probably the brain of the ship, actually. We have access to all knowledge from the cloud as well. We also use these tablets later on for education on upcoming work opportunities, entertainment, and while down on the planets. We were educated through virtual reality and or the use of these tablets. As mentioned before, we communicate via telepathy, mental images, and gesture. Sometimes we can use communication implants until we've mastered the skills of telepathic communication and psychic shielding. Orientation includes the use of healing chambers, which heal our physical bodies, our etheric, energetic bodies, etc., allow us to detoxify and become physically comfortable in the ship environment. The healing chambers also collect the data needed for successful clone implantation. Healing chambers can also be used to prepare us for the unique qualities needed for the upcoming planet that we may be working on. We become adapted this way to the new gravity, available foods, oxygen content of the atmosphere, etc. And they look like tanning beds, but they're bigger, and the process is not invasive and is actually very comfortable. You probably go to sleep while you're in there. So orientation ships do just that. They give us our first contact point, options for training, transport closer to destinations, ambassador meetings, etc. We spend time in classrooms learning as well as group and alone time with our tablets. As mentioned before, if we tell people that about what we've experienced, we are stigmatized, and it can cause significant social and political issues for the contactees once we return to Earth. So our memories are wiped before we return to Earth. And that's why a lot of people need hypnosis or regression to remember. Everyday life on the big ship. It was difficult at first to learn to stop talking. Generally, everybody knows what everybody else is surface thinking. Words are sets of symbols that hold us back. Languages on Earth are specific sets of symbols that lock us into specific ways of thinking and perceiving. Words are part of the construct, and they contain us within the artificial Earth matrix. Words get in the way, and they certainly take away from the peacefulness of the environment. Some beings are offended by the way we speak with mouth movements, the showing of our teeth, saliva, etc. Some of them are threatening when we speak words. Also, when we use words, we emote very intensely as we are perceived by them. It is offensive to most off-world beings in the same way as being screamed at is offensive to us. These beings are not into physical fitness. They just maintain healthy lifestyles, and they don't try to bulk up. Working out for physical fitness is a foreign concept to most of them. Excuse me. The spirit of cooperation and sharing permeates the environment. As I mentioned previously, trade goes on very much and on all levels. There is an abundance of everything. There is no shortage, so people can be generous and non-competitive. The work is efficient, and there's overlap between training, work, entertainment, and recreation. We study and we work according to our area of interest, so it could be arts, sciences, it doesn't matter. And all training and work overlaps with recreation and environment. Everyone loves what they do. It's a fun place to work. And an example of training would be like this. Say you wanted to go in for botany specialization. Well, that would lead into intergalactic research, which again would lead into resettlement. So you begin training through tablets, virtual reality, classrooms, and then real life training with a tutor. And in the beginning of orientation, we are assessed as to our learning style, our areas of interest, talents, and intentions. Virtual reality is like watching a video, but it's in your head. There's no bulky equipment, just a narrow band that fits loosely around your forehead and the sides of your head. And when you're using it, you recline into a very comfortable padded chair. There are lectures, discussions, stories, and private time for research with tablets or virtual reality. The toy maker. These beings have a high need for play and are full of curiosity. What I call the toy maker is a box-shaped device with touch symbols on the sides, an internal 3D printer, which just prints to instruction. Sorry, I lost my place. Prints to instruction. Then, when you're done with what you've created, you put it back on the top of the device and the elements are recycled. I saw it produce games, puzzles, blocks, documents, and something that looked like an abacus. I used a tablet to design my own pajamas. The 3D scan done at orientation is also used to produce a holographic image of self, which I used for my designs. All beings that I saw wore clothes when not in the bath. A few beings wear what looks like jumpsuits, but most are free to wear whatever they want. So I designed loose-fitting pajamas or pajama-style clothes during my off time, because you do have quite a bit of off time. You don't work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Work is integrated with everything else, so it's quite a different system. So there's no judgment on how we express. I used a drag and drop system to create the clothes I wanted to wear, and at the end of the day, I put my clothes into the recycling chute, and my new clothes were 3D printed and delivered to my room while I slept. And I don't exactly know how they delivered it to my room, but there's a little tray or a drawer that offers whatever you've been waiting for. It's just there in the morning. You can have anything you want and then just recycle it when you're done. Abundance is a given. There are not a lot of rules and policies, and everything's put to good purpose. The gardens, as I mentioned before, are in every department. They're beautiful and they're integrated with the big ship. Live food is treated with light, sound, and other frequencies to enhance nutritional values. And different beings have slightly different nutritional requirements. So now we're going to get on to the juicy part, sex, love, and reproduction. So the atmosphere on the big ship is quite sex positive, except when we're down on the planets doing the research work. But up on the big ships, the culture is very sex positive. Sex, love, and reproduction are not necessarily connected. When understanding off-world culture, you must divide sex up into categories: love, sex, and reproduction. Sex for reproduction is more technical than sex for orgasm. Sex and or orgasm are a part of healthy living, like eating and sleeping. There are two kinds of orgasm: physical and psychic. Psychic sex is way easier, and or cultural differences. We would consider ET to be very sexually liberated because we've been shut down on Earth to everything that gives us power, including expanded opportunities for sexual maturity.